They all talk about the 4th and 1. You know what I say? If it had been 4th and 1, I'd punted the son of a b***h. It was 4th and that far.
They played with a lot of emotion today.
The Bootlegger's Boy, Barry Switzer, today on NFL Films Presents.
We got a job to do, and we're going to do it, baby!
NFL Films Presents is brought to you by The Home Depot, official home improvement sponsor of the NFL.
When I recently sat down with Barry Switzer, I knew he was a Super Bowl winning coach and the legendary college coach at Oklahoma. But I had no idea he was a bootlegger's boy.
My dad was a bootlegger.
But what is a bootlegger?
Well, that was the old days, in the 20s and 30s, back in when probation. Probation held most players on probation. Prohibition, I mean. My father didn't have a still. He would go to Louisiana and Mississippi, and I'd go with him because I was a young kid, and we would take the springs of the old 88 Oldsmobile out of the back seat, and we'd load it up with whiskey and throw a quilt over the top of it, and I'd lay up on the quilt like I was sleeping back there with a couple of pillows, and we'd have about 25 cases of whiskey in there that he'd bring back to a dry county and sell it.
Well, did you know that was against the law then as a young kid?
Well, I obviously did because my daddy was arrested several times. My dad never saw me play high school football because he was in state penitentiary. We used to drive my mother every Sunday to the state penitentiary in the 50s in Arkansas. You can imagine what the state pen was like. It was tough.
Home life in rural Crossett, Arkansas could be just as tough for Barry and his younger brother, Donnie.
We were both outsiders. He tried to protect me from things. For example, for many years, we slept together in the front bedroom of the old home place. And I could hear Mom and Dad having arguments late at night, and Barry would cover my ears.
Dad, he was a rogue. Mother lived in a world of alcohol, barbiturate drugs. I remember coming home and seeing the condition which she would be in. I can understand it now. I look back on it. I didn't then, but Mother was ostracized and isolated. She took her life when she was 44, I think, young.
Barry and I happened to be there that night. It was August 1959. Mom came in and tried to kiss me goodnight, but she reeked of alcohol, and I just couldn't bring myself to kiss her goodnight. And she had been in to see Barry before that. And then a few minutes later, I heard the shot. And the next thing I remember is Barry saying, "Oh no," and screaming that as he ran down the hall toward the back porch. I think it's still with him today. He's very heavily ADD, attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity.
When we return, another tragic chapter in the story of the bootlegger's boy. Despite his dysfunctional family life, Barry Switzer earned a football scholarship to the University of Arkansas. After graduation, he was hired as an assistant coach. Two of his undersized players would go on to become NFL heavyweights.
Jerry Jones. Jerry was a try-hard guy, bust his rear end, so we lined him up at guard. Jimmy Johnson, same way. Jimmy was a short, jump-around nose guard from Port Arthur, Texas. We won the national championship in 1964.
The Razorbacks' '64 championship propelled Barry to Oklahoma, where he quickly showed a down-home touch when it came to recruiting.
Coach Switzer was coming to our house to have dinner with us. My mother's cooking pinto beans. Fried chicken, pinto beans, little cucumber, vinegar salad. I said, "Mama," "why are you cooking beans on all days? This man doesn't eat beans." I said, "This guy's used to steak." I thought only poor people ate pinto beans. Barry Switzer, this guy was climbing over the table, man, getting to the beans. "Hey, Bill, pass the chicken, give me a little more of that salad." And I thought, this guy isn't so bad after all. He's beans too. So, and it might have been an act, but I'll go to my grave believing that was the real Barry Switzer.
And I had that ability. I really believe in recruiting talent, that people trusted me.
Barry was unusually successful at gaining the trust of African-American players at a time when few other programs showed them much interest.
You got to remember, early on, I said my dad was a bootlegger. My world was surrounded by a black community. My dad lived in a black community. He had black women. A black woman shot him, murdered him because she caught him with another black woman.
We would go with Dad on his rounds and see the respect that the kids and the mamas and the papas had. We saw that firsthand. And we also saw that Dad had a tremendous empathy for the black community.
I was raised in knowing there wasn't really any difference in any of us.
Some coaches go into a recruiting situation and try to adapt to the environment, and it comes off as cold and not real. Barry goes in with a measure of empathy, and it is authentic, and people sense that. It's like a dog. A dog can sense when you're scared of him, and I think players being recruited can sense when they've got an authentic coach around them.
He could relate to the J.C. Wattses that grew up on the east side of the railroad tracks and couldn't swim in the public swimming pool until I was about in the 4th grade, and had to sit in the balcony of the movie theater till I was about in the 7th grade. Some have just gotten it in the last 10 years. Coach Switzer got it 30 years ago.
I was playing black quarterbacks for anyone recruiting black athletes. I was playing a black quarterback in the early 70s, 71, 72.
Did the administration at Oklahoma give you any trouble about that?
I had those people that were major contributors and supporters financially of my program write me and tell me about it.
What do you mean, right?
Would write me letters or make some comments in social settings and all. And
so
my athletes...
You have too many blacks on the team?
Sure they did. Sure they did.
What did you say to them?
We would laugh about it. My team, I'd take them the letters. I'd read it to the J.C. Watts and the Thomas Lotts. I'd read it to my players,
Running an innovative wishbone offense, Barry's Sooners won more games in the 1970s than any other college team.
Never had to punt the football. Average nearly 50 points a game scoring. Hang half 100 on people because people don't know how to defend this. We set national records that'll never be broken.
Oklahoma claimed 3 national championships, but Barry got scant credit.
Some people say, well, Switzer, well, hell, he wasn't nothing but a recruiter. Well, that was all it was. I was luckier than hell for 16 years because we won more football games in the 16 years I coached Oklahoma than anyone else. No one has won like we won.
But some remember Barry not for his victory total, but the way he left Oklahoma in the wake of a scandal in 1989. When that article in Sports Illustrated came out, you must have got sick to your stomach when they said it was an ethical wasteland.
It hurt because the doping and the raping and the shooting affected hundreds and hundreds of great kids, literally hundreds that did the right thing. We had 4 or 5 players that made these poor choices, these felonies. It affected my life, it affected my program, and it wasn't fair, but that's life.
I think to the extent that the head coach has got to be responsible for institutionally what goes on, maybe he's culpable. I think you say that, but you pay a tremendous price, oftentimes not for the mistakes that you make, but for the mistakes that people around you make.
Coach probably should have ruled more with an iron fist, more as a dictator, rather than trying to use a system of democracy.
When he was finally ousted, he did an interview with me. I was working for the NBC affiliate in Houston. He said, Spencer, he says, you need to understand, son. He says, I held my mother in my arms shortly after she took her life. He says, I can take anything these sons of want to give me. Basically saying, this ain't nothing. Really. I'm going to miss it, but you know what? When you've gone through something like that, nothing else really can touch you.
We have mutually decided that I would no longer be the head football coach with the Dallas Cowboys.
When Jimmy Johnson left Dallas after winning back-to-back Super Bowls, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones turned to another old college buddy to fill the most pressure-packed job in the NFL. Since leaving Oklahoma, Barry Switzer had been out of coaching for 5 years. What did Jerry say to you? I mean, when he called you...
First of all, I wasn't surprised, and I can tell you the date. In March the 28th, he called me in 1994. I just had a whole colonoscopy that morning, you know. I'll never forget, my daughter brought me home. I'm all drugged out. It's about 8:30. I'd had that colonoscopy, and the phone rings. And my daughter says, "Daddy, it's Jerry calling." And I said, "Tell Jerry that I'll have to call him back later. I don't think I can talk right now." Well, obviously, I don't know if there's a correlation between Jerry and that procedure that day. People have asked me, but no, it's not. Jerry and I have a great relationship. But what happens is that Jerry and I talked, and he just says to me, "You want to coach the Cowboys?" I said, "If the job is open, definitely I would be." He says, "Come on to Dallas."
I hope I can do as good a job as Jimmy Johnson. That's what you're hoping, and that's damn sure what you're hoping. That's why I'm here.
It was a 180 in atmosphere.
Excuse me?
And it was certainly a 180 in humor. It was, what in the hell?
We got a job to do, and we're going to do it, baby!
Barry was as far from being Jimmy Johnson as any coach could be. I mean, not only had he never coached in the NFL, but he was viewed as sort of a laissez-faire guy, didn't believe in control and discipline, all of the things that were cornerstones of Jimmy's regime.
Just like he had at Oklahoma, Barry found it easy to relate to the African-American players in Dallas.
Grew up with the brothers. It got him what we call street cred. You know what I'm saying? Barry grew up with the brothers. Oh, yeah, street cred.
Barry was known as a player's coach, but many felt he created a far too relaxed atmosphere.
The guys who didn't want to work hard, who didn't want to be held accountable for mistakes, who didn't want to come to meetings and conduct themselves in a professional way all the time, they loved Barry being there. Who wouldn't? There were a lot of players who felt like Barry provided a more enjoyable environment. The problem for Barry was that his Hall of Fame quarterback wasn't among the people who believed in that.
Green, 45, hut! You know, Jimmy had such a presence on the football field, whether it be the practice field or the games. That is not there, whereas Barry just kind of blends in and lets the guys go about their business.
Troy Aikman pretty quickly became skeptical of Switzer's ability to be competitive and take his job seriously when he began leaving the team on some Saturday nights to go watch his son play college football.
I was criticized by the media to go on Saturday night to see my son play football. And I know what coaches do on Saturday night. You do too. What the hell does it do on Saturday night? You play on Sunday. I'm going to go see my son play. I used to take Jerry's plane. You know, I'd fly around the country.
I asked one of their prominent offensive players what they thought of Barry Switzer leaving his football team, and the player, without hesitation, said, "I got to tell you, I'm a lot more concerned about what he's doing when he is here than what's going on when he's not here."
Even players from other teams had concerns over Barry's behavior when he coached the 1995 Pro Bowl.
We had worked long and hard that week in Hawaii to convince Chris Spielman to come to Dallas. He was a free agent, and I think we had him. And then during the game, he came up and he said, "I changed my mind, I'm not coming to Dallas." I'm like, "What do you mean, what do you mean? We were talking about the whole time, you gotta come, you gotta come." He goes, "I can't play for that guy." And he pointed, and Barry was sitting down eating a hot dog on the bench. And it was just like, God, dang it.
Tough sideline go here for Barry Switzer. Consumed by the pressure.
Look at this.
A man involved in every aspect of his NFC game plan.
He behaved in a way that few, if any, NFL coaches before or after have conducted themselves.
Just look at the soundbite reel you could do from his press conferences. I mean, you don't see that stuff at the NFL level.
They played with a lot of emotion today. They got after it. They spilled their bucket out there. I hope they didn't lose all of it. They were ready to go.
Jimmy's a good guy. I read the poll in the paper today, and I believe what you read in the paper.
The papers had a lot to write about Barry in his 4 years in Dallas.
Obviously.
And most of the time, the coach was under fire. Being caught with a loaded gun at the Dallas airport just gave the press more ammunition. And no NFL coach took more shots than Switzer.
The press was really hard on him down here in Dallas. He'd walk into those press conferences and get grilled.
I'm finally getting around to do what I want to do, and I'll be glad to get rid of you guys where I can go do it and say I'm going to do one interview a day, and that's it, and let me go coach. Let me go do what I want to do.
I think that what's happened... Ask me the question again. I forgot what the hell I was doing.
How is training camp? It's been long. The grind has gotten to some of our players. It's gotten to me right now, and I want to take a bite of my this right here. I don't know what the hell's going on here. I guess I'm damn tired of this.
I don't believe you.
You know,
he was in an 0-win situation. If he does screw it up, it's going to be his fault. And if he does continue to win Super Bowls...
We got any water in here?
Then, well, he doesn't get any credit. It was Jimmy's guys, and his staff was in place. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, I tell you what, the damn situation's gotten to where he gets too much damn attention to answering the same damn old questions. That me off a lot, and then one thing happened this morning really. But anyway.
In his first season, Switzer took the Cowboys to the 1994 NFC Championship game. But 3 early turnovers put the team in a deep hole.
It's a horror movie I'm watching, 21-0, you know, and I call all the offense up. I said, you know what's great about being down 21-0 the first 5 minutes of a game? They're all looking at me stunned. What the hell could be great about this? I said, we got 55 minutes to get back in the son of a...
The Cowboys couldn't come all the way back, and their dreams of a 3rd straight title ended.
People may blame Barry, but it wasn't his fault. Barry didn't put the ball on the ground 3 times in the first 5 minutes of the game. That's on us.
The next season, Switzer and the Cowboys returned to the championship game.
He'll score! Emmitt Smith dances to the end zone!
And this time, the coach and his team didn't fall short.
And I want to say this now. Don't nobody deserve him more than our head coach, Barry Switzer. He take all the he take all the maligning. Give him his due. We going home.
I really appreciate some of the things that you guys said to me personally, some of you players in the ball game. It really means a lot to me. It really does. And I want to thank our coaching staff. I want to thank these guys that all the bullshit we have to put up with and all the people outside. Hey, they're loyal. They stuck with me and fought their rear ends off, and I believe in them, and they believe in me.
Here's a pass in the flat, picked up by the Cowboys. Larry Brown may score at the 30, 20.
They go ahead and win that Super Bowl. Of course, I didn't give Barry any credit for that, even as the head coach.
I knew I couldn't win for losing, and it didn't matter to me. People said, well, you won with Jimmy's guys. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I could have lost with them, too. Then we won. That's what we're supposed to do. We won.
And Dallas, your Cowboys are world champions again.
They always criticize. I don't give a damn. Who was Super Bowl champions that year?
Are you having a good time now, Jerry? I want to tell you, we did it our way, baby. We did it. We did it. We did it.
By winning an NFL title, Barry Switzer became, along with Jimmy Johnson, one of only 2 coaches to win both a Super Bowl and a college national championship. Following the 1997 season, Barry left football for good.
One of my former bosses told me, of all the people that you have treated roughly in the newspaper, I thought you were the most unfair to Barry Switzer. Oh my, did I go after Switzer? And it was unfair. When I think back on it, I'm surprised he just didn't slap the crap out of me. But to this day, I get along with him.
I don't dislike Barry Switzer. I think he was one of the most colorful, unique characters that I've ever seen in this game. I was going to do an interview a few years later. I hadn't seen Barry for like 5 years. And to my surprise, Barry was with Jerry, whom I was scheduled to interview. And so when I walked in the door, I was surprised to see him there. And he said, "That's right, Werder. It's me. Barry's back. Barry's back at Cowboys camp." And I said, "Oh, are you really?" And he said, yeah, I sure am. He says, "And I've caught your act on TV." And I said, "Is that what it is, an act?" And he says, "Yeah, let me tell you something. Ain't nearly as good without me toting guns through the airport for you." This really goes to just how self-effacing Barry Switzer is.
I make mistakes and have fun with it. I'm not a big ego guy. I laugh at myself.
Boots it out of bounds, and it's caught there and spiked by Barry Switzer.
Barry may not be the greatest coach in Dallas history, but he's also not the only Cowboy to eat a hot dog on the sideline either. In the end, he's simply a bootlegger's boy. You know, someone once said that every man is either trying to live up to his father's expectations or to make up for his father's mistakes. Can you relate to that?
My dad was a good man. He took care of people. His word was good. He wasn't a hypocrite. People believed in him. They trusted him. When I look back on his life, sorry about this. I think about this. My dad took care of the black community. And my son, Doug Switzer, played quarterback at University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff. It's an all-black school. He was the only white on the team. I always thought my dad was proud that his grandson would play quarterback for a black, all-black school. To go to those games, sitting up in the stands, the thing that I valued more in my dad's life was a stranger walk up to me, a black gentleman, and say, "Your dad sent me to school. He paid my tuition, and I'm a federal warden today because of that." Hey, my dad did some good besides some whiskey.
And he was a good dad. People don't often understand that. A fellow who is felt by the local community to be a rogue or an outlaw can be a real good guy. The parallel between that and Barry is that people who knew my dad personally loved him. People who know Barry personally love him.
I love to hear from him. Sometimes he'll just call and leave a message and say, "I love you, boy. What you doing?" You know.
What I like most about Barry is you let your family walk around. Barry will seek them out and speak. That's big. That's big. Because then he's saying to me, we're beyond the football field, buddy.
The opening paragraph of my book, there's one page. I wrote in there to my children, Greg, Kathy, and Doug. And this is what my mother had said to me long ago. Only when you have children of your own, then will you know how much I love you. And I think that no one knows what love is till they have children of their own. It's all about family and your children, because nothing in the end matters worth a damn out there. Super Bowl rings, Lombardi trophies, all that other bullshit. Doesn't matter. You come into this life and you leave it. It comes down to a few people going to be with you when it's all over. You're going to have 3 or 4 people you touch. And you better touch your family the right way, because they're really all you got.